Vivian Ashford's life was knocked on 3 times. The first time, she did not answer. The second time, she closed the door in its face. The third time, she sent a letter, "Do not come again." The fourth time, her father's hand in hers, his breath uneven, his eyes searching for Vivian, she opened the door. Because that night, her father had told her something. In a whisper, with shame, with eyes full of apology. "We owe Weston, my daughter, far too much, and when he chooses to collect, he will ask for you." Vivian had looked toward the window then. Outside, Sebastian Crane, the Duke of Weston, was waiting in the garden. He had not been invited, but he knew when to come, where to stand. This man knew everything. That was why he was dangerous. Vivian turned back. She looked at her father, at his thin, tired, worn face. Then she looked at the window again. "Yes," she said. A single word, spoken flatly. Not in anger, not in surrender, just like the sound of a door closing. In the garden, Sebastian Crane lifted his head. What Vivian expected did not happen. There was no victory in that look, no relief, no expression of a man who had won. So why had she said no 3 times? Because this man was dangerous. And Vivian had learned that across 3 separate nights from 3 different women. The first night. Vivian was 23. She wore a pink dress. She would always remember that later. Memory preserved not the great moments, but their edges. Sebastian Crane made his first offer that night. Papers lay on the table, neat, official, cold. Her father's debt. The number was large. Beneath it, Sebastian's solution stood in a single line. "The debt will be erased. In return, I will marry Miss Vivian Ashford." Vivian read the document, set it back on the table, stood. At the door she turned, only once. "Weston, offering to purchase a woman is not a proposal." She closed the door. The second night, 14 months later. A dinner, candlelight, velvet voices, 12 guests. Vivian met Lady Hargrove's cousin there, Margaret, pale-skinned, quiet-eyed, with a smile that always arrived too late. When the women withdrew to a separate room, Margaret approached Vivian, lowering her voice further. "I was once engaged to him as well," she said. "The engagement was broken because Sebastian wished it so. 6 months later, my father went bankrupt. A company built over 20 years collapsed overnight." She paused. "A coincidence? I don't know, but I have not slept since." Vivian returned home that night. 2 weeks later, Sebastian came. The second proposal. Different words, the same meaning. Vivian spoke without standing. "No." Sebastian left. The third night. It was a winter ball. Hundreds of candles, hundreds of people. Vivian slipped away from the crowd into the corridor. The library door stood ajar. She entered. Sebastian was there, and beside him a young woman, Mrs. Voss. Dark-haired, a face London recognized. They were not speaking, they were simply standing. But Sebastian was holding the woman's hand. Then he saw Vivian. The hand was released immediately in a single motion. None of them moved. Not a word was spoken. Vivian turned and left. That night, she sat at her desk, took a sheet of paper, wrote, "Mr. Crane, my answer has not changed. It will not change. Please do not come again. V.A." She sent it with the first post in the morning, and Sebastian did not come for 2 years. For 2 years, her father's steps grew heavier. For 2 years, every morning at the breakfast table, Vivian looked at him and saw what she did not wish to see, how time slowly diminished a man. For 2 years, she said nothing, until that night, her father's room, trembling hands, a whisper.
We owe Weston, my daughter. And Vivian understood. For 2 years, Sebastian had not come, but the debt had remained, quietly, patiently, gathering interest. And the man had been waiting as well. It rained on the morning of the wedding.
Vivian did not read it as a sign. She did not believe in signs. She was dressed in her gown, her hair arranged. Her bridesmaid, Clara, small, talkative, kind-hearted, held her hands. "Perhaps it won't be as bad as you think," Clara said. She meant to comfort her. Vivian looked at her. "Perhaps," she said. Nothing more. They were about to go to the door when Clara paused, lowering her voice, the peculiar whisper of those unsure whether they should deliver news at all. "Mrs. Voss was dismissed from the house yesterday, with her luggage." Vivian remembered seeing her at the winter ball, Sebastian holding her hand. She did not move. "Who told you?" "The cook's sister heard it from the servants. She left early this morning. The Duke himself told her, 'You are not to set foot here again.'" Silence. Vivian looked at the flowers in her hands, white, tightly bound, cold. Did her hands tremble? Perhaps. Only she felt it. "Let's go," she said. The ceremony was brief, cold, formal, unnecessarily prolonged in nothing. Vivian did everything. Turned at the right time, answered at the right time, inclined her head at the right time. Sebastian stood beside her. Vivian had to hold his hand. The ceremony required it. His hand was cold, or perhaps hers was. Neither of them looked at the other in that moment. When they stepped outside, the sun had emerged. The rain had stopped so quickly. Someone said it was a good sign. Vivian did not hear. Weston Manor lay north of London, large, old, its stone walls wrapped in centuries-old ivy. When Vivian first entered, she stopped. It felt as though the house was watching her. Absurd. She knew it was, but she felt it nonetheless. Mrs. Holloway, the housekeeper, short, every movement measured, greeted them at the door. She looked Vivian over from head to toe, politely, but she looked. "Duchess," she said, "your room is ready." Your room, singular. Vivian looked at Sebastian. "I would prefer separate rooms," she said. She did not ask, nor did she wait for explanation. She simply stated it. Sebastian paused for a second, then turned to Mrs. Holloway. "Prepare the room in the east wing." Mrs. Holloway inclined her head and left. The two remained in the corridor, newly married, strangers, silent. "Thank you," said Vivian. "You're welcome," said Sebastian. And each walked in their own direction. The first week passed like this. Breakfast, across from one another, formal, brief. Sebastian read the newspaper. Vivian looked out the window. They spoke of the weather, the schedule, the affairs of the house, nothing more. Dinner, candles, silverware, servants. Sometimes there were guests. Then they performed, smiled politely, completed each other's sentences, produced that artificial warmth of newlyweds. When the guests left, the silence returned. Night. Separate rooms, separate corridors, the long stone passage of the house between them. Vivian grew accustomed to it. It was not difficult. She had expected nothing else. But she was learning the house. Each morning she went a little farther, corridors, rooms, staircases. One must understand a place if one is to live in it. That was Vivian's rule. And one morning, in the old wing, at the end of a long corridor, she found a locked door. The other doors were not locked. That detail mattered. Vivian found Mrs. Holloway, in a corridor near the kitchen, speaking with the servants. "The key to that room," Vivian said. No explanation, only the request. A pause. Something crossed Mrs. Holloway's face. She did not wish to give it. But Vivian was the Duchess now, and for the first time she used the weight of that word. The key was given.
The room was dusty. It carried the scent of a space long unopened, stale air, old fabric, time itself. Vivienne stepped inside and stopped. A woman's room. Everything was in place, as though the woman had left one day and never returned. The brush still held strands of hair. The wardrobe door stood ajar, dresses hanging inside. A book lay face down by the window, open as if someone had set it aside mid-reading. Vivienne moved slowly further in. A small box rested atop the dresser, silver, monogrammed. Inside, letters, old, folded, sealed, and tucked into the corner of the mirror, a small note. Vivienne took it. Handwritten, quick but legible. S. Read this after you find me. Signed, Caroline. Vivienne held the note for a long time. Caroline. Sebastian's missing fiancée, the woman who had vanished 2 years ago. The name London whispered, the newspapers implied, but no one ever asked aloud. Vivienne slipped the note into her pocket, and as she left the room, she closed the door, but did not lock it. That evening, as Sebastian sat across from her at dinner, Vivienne watched him. He was as he always was, precise, distant, politely uninterested. He held his knife and fork correctly, spoke at the appropriate moments. His expression never changed.
What does this man feel? Vivienne wondered. Nothing? Or is he hiding everything? Is there something you wish to ask? Vivienne froze. Sebastian was looking at her, directly, expectantly. Why? She said. Because you've been watching me for 10 minutes. Vivienne straightened. Caroline's room. It was as if all sound in the house stopped. The servants' footsteps, the distant wind, everything. Sebastian set his knife down, slowly. You entered that room? I did. A pause. Who gave you the key? I asked. It was given. Vivienne did not blink. I am the Duchess of this house. Sebastian studied her for a long moment. Something passed across his face, not anger, not panic, something more complex. That room, he said at last, should have remained closed. Why? He did not answer. Vivienne did not rise from the table. Where is Caroline? Sebastian stood, set his napkin down. Good night, Vivienne. And he left the room. Vivienne remained alone at the table. The candles burned, the meal unfinished. The note was still in her pocket. S. Read this after you find me. Vivienne looked at her wine. I found you, she thought. Now what? Vivienne did not sleep that night. She placed Caroline's note on her desk, drew the candle closer, looked at it. S. Read this after you find me. But the note was not written for her. It was written for Sebastian. Vivienne was the one who had found it, but not its intended reader. And yet, she had taken it. Why? Because there was a secret in this house, and secrets longed for daylight. Vivienne had always known this. The more they were suppressed, the stronger they emerged. She extinguished the candle, lay down. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Caroline's room, the strands of hair in the brush, the book left face down, the dresses in the wardrobe. A woman had lived there. Then she had left everything behind, or been made to. The next morning, Vivienne rose early. Sebastian was not at breakfast. Mrs. Holloway merely said, "The Duke left early," offering no further explanation. Vivienne did not ask. She finished her meal and went to Caroline's room. This time she looked more carefully. She examined everything, methodically, without haste. The brush, the bottles, The wardrobe, the drawers, the books. The books caught her attention. There were 14 on the shelf, novels, poetry, a travel journal. All had been read, their corners bent. Caroline read then. She was a thinking woman. Then, wedged between the shelf and the wall, she found a small notebook, hidden deliberately, clearly. Vivian took it, opened it. Caroline's handwriting was small, precise, careful, each letter deliberate. Dates marked the entries. Vivian began from the beginning. The first pages were happy. She wrote of Sebastian, a careful man, quiet yet sincere, unlike the neighboring lords who delighted in boasting. I feel like myself beside him. That is a rare thing. A few pages later, the tone shifted. Sebastian behaved strangely today. He wants to say something, but cannot. I can feel it. People speak with their eyes when they cannot speak aloud, and I have learned to read his. Later. Mother came today. She explained again how important this engagement is for our family. Again, always again, as though my feelings are not a variable in this equation. And then, one day, a single sentence. Sebastian confessed something to me today. I cannot write it yet. I need to process it. The next page was blank. The other. I must leave. Sebastian released me. That is his word, released me, as though I were a bird. Perhaps I was. Perhaps we both were. And the cage was not us, but everything surrounding us. The final page. I am leaving a note for S. Perhaps one day he will read it. Perhaps he will not. But I had to write it. Some things do not close unless they are spoken. Vivienne closed the notebook, held it for a long time. Caroline had not run. She had not been cast out. She had been released. Those were two very different things. That evening, Vivienne sat in the library, Caroline's notebook beside her. She did not entirely know why she had brought it, but she had not wanted to leave it behind. She read by candlelight, a different book, taken at random from the shelf. But she was not reading. The words passed before her eyes without meaning. The door opened. Sebastian entered. He saw her and stopped. He had not expected her there. I am disturbing you, he said, turning to leave. No. Vivian closed the book. Sit. Sebastian hesitated a moment, then took the chair opposite her. As they sat, the only sound in the library was the candle, the flicker of flame, the wind beyond. Do you come here every night? Vivian asked. Most nights. Why? Sebastian looked at the books. Because here, no one expects anything from me. Vivian had not expected that. It was open, unguarded, unprepared, a kind of answer she had not thought would come from him. She felt something then, small, dangerous, unfamiliar, somewhere on the left side of her chest, in a place she could not quite name. She pushed it away, immediately. I read Caroline's journal. Sebastian's face changed. This time he did not retreat. He did not lower the mask, but a crack appeared. Where did you find it? Behind the shelf. Silence. And? She loved you. I know. But you released her. Vivian paused. That is the word she used. Released. Sebastian turned toward the window. It was dark outside. The engagement was a family arrangement, he said. His voice was steady, but something lay beneath it, suppressed weight. Caroline did not know at first. Then she learned, and she said it was not what she deserved. And you? He paused. I agreed. Vivian watched him. Then why? Because my family wanted it. The name Weston wanted it, and for a long time I was occupied with doing what the name Weston required. His voice lowered. until I realized it would destroy a life. Caroline's? Both of ours. Silence settled in the library. Long, heavy, carrying too much. Vivian was about to stand, but there was a question inside her. She did not want to ask it. Asking threatened her walls, but not asking was worse. Mrs. Voss, at the ball, you were holding her hand. Sebastian turned, looked at her. I know how it appeared. That is not an answer. A pause. I have a prior acquaintance with Margaret Hargrove, Caroline's cousin. That night, she had received bad news. She was distressed. He paused. Mrs. Voss is a close friend of hers. She found me, explained the situation, and his voice faltered. I wanted to comfort her. It was the wrong moment, the wrong place. Vivian studied him for a long time. Did she want to believe him? Perhaps. Did she believe him? Not yet. Good night, Sebastian, she said, rising. He did not stand, only watched. Vivienne. She turned at the door. The note Caroline left, Sebastian said. It's in your pocket. I know. He paused. I did not read it. I did not want to. Why? Because once certain doors are closed, opening them burns both sides. Vivienne lingered a moment in the doorway, then she left. As she walked down the corridor, her hand went to her pocket. The note was still there. S. Read this after you find me. Vivienne stopped, turned, looked at the library door, the light still seeping through, Sebastian still inside. Then she turned again and walked to her room. That night she did not open the note, but she did not throw it away either. Days passed, and without noticing, something began to change. Small, subtle, the kind of change that arrives unseen. At breakfast, Vivienne now took the newspaper before Sebastian, read half, then handed it to him. He accepted it, thanked her. She shrugged. At dinner, when there were no guests, they spoke, not of the house, but of other things. One night they argued history, the French Revolution, its causes, its consequences. Sebastian knew far more than Vivienne had expected. Vivienne, in turn, surprised him. He laughed that night. Brief, unexpected. A kind of sound Vivienne had never heard from him before. And when she heard that laugh, she felt that small, dangerous thing again, the thing she had pushed away, suppressed, never named. This time, she was too late to push it back. One morning in the garden, Vivienne had gone out early to take in the fresh air. She found Sebastian outside, but this time, not in formal attire. He wore a simple shirt, sleeves rolled, a tool in his hand. He was repairing an old wall, a servant's task, but he was doing it himself. Vivienne stopped. Sebastian saw her. He was surprised, slightly, but noticeably. "You're up early," he said. "So are you," said Vivienne. She glanced at the garden. "Why are you doing this yourself?" Sebastian looked at the wall. "Because the mason hasn't come for 3 weeks, and this side leaks in the rain." A duke building a wall. Does a duke want a wet wall or a dry one? Vivienne paused. Then she laughed. A small laugh, brief, almost too soft to be heard. But Sebastian heard it, and in that moment he set the tool down, without realizing it, a reflex, as though that sound had caught him unprepared. They looked at each other. Vivienne looked away. "Breakfast must be ready," she said, and turned. But as she walked back, the trace of that smile still lingered on her face, and it unsettled her. Because walls did not fall with great blows. They fell with small smiles. Mrs. Voss appeared at the door at 2 in the afternoon. Vivienne was in the garden, book in hand, trying to catch that rare, gentle warmth of the sun. Clara came running from inside, breathless. "There is a lady, Duchess. She asks for you, alone." "Who?" She hesitated. "Mrs. Voss." Vivienne closed her book. She received her in the drawing room. Mrs. Voss looked different today. Not the dark-haired woman self-assured from the ball. She was pale. Her hands were tightly clasped in her lap. She did not sit. Vivienne told her to. She sat. "Is Sebastian here?" she asked first. "No." Relief passed over her face. "Good." Vivienne waited. Mrs. Voss drew a deep breath and spoke. "I hid Caroline," she said, "for 2 years. A small house in the north of London. I paid the rent." Vivienne did not move. "Why?" "Because she was afraid." "Of whom?" Mrs. Voss lifted her eyes, looked directly at Vivienne. "Of Sebastian."
The room spun. Or Vivienne did. The two were the same in that moment. "Explain," said Vivienne. Her voice was steady, controlled. Her interior was not. When the engagement ended, Caroline was in a terrible state. But it was more than heartbreak. She was afraid. After leaving the manor, she came to me trembling. She paused. "I know something," she said, "and that is why he released me." Vivienne felt something tighten inside her. What did she know? "I don't know." Mrs. Voss shook her head. "She didn't say. If I tell you, we will both be in danger," she said, "so I did not ask." Silence. "And now?" said Vivienne. "Now she wants to return. She wants to come to you." Mrs. Voss leaned forward. "She says she has something to tell you. She wants to warn you." Vivienne stood. She walked to the window, looked at the garden. The sun was still shining, absurdly, in contradiction to everything inside. "Where is she now?" "Here, in London, nearby." "Send her in the morning." Mrs. Voss stood. "Duchess, in the morning," Vivienne said. She turned. "And you will not say a word to Sebastian." Mrs. Voss bowed her head and left. That night, Vivienne sat across from Sebastian at dinner. As always, candles, silverware, formal silence. Sebastian spoke of the newspaper, a new bill debated in Parliament. Vivienne listened, answered, debated. Everything was normal. But Vivienne was looking at him, truly looking, committing him to memory, his posture, his hands, that ever-calculated expression on his face. "I am afraid. I know something. That is why he released me." This man sat before her. This man had built a wall in the garden last week. This man had said in the library, "Here, no one expects anything from me." Which one was real? Vivienne. She looked up. Sebastian was watching her. "Where do you disappear to?" "I was thinking." "About what?" Vivienne looked at her wine. "About how layered people are." Sebastian paused a moment. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "I don't know yet," said Vivienne, and finished her meal. Caroline arrived early in the morning. Vivienne received her in a small sitting room at the back of the manor, quiet, unused by others. Caroline was in her early 30s, fair-haired, fine-featured with exhaustion beneath her eyes. 2 years in hiding did that to a person. Vivienne did not rise. She sat. Caroline took the seat opposite. They looked at one another. "I do not know you," said Vivienne, "but you must have had a reason to come here." "Yes," her voice was stronger than expected, "to warn you." "About what?" Caroline placed her hands in her lap, drew a deep breath. "The name Weston," she said, "it appears very clean, but beneath it there is much. Explain." "Sebastian is a good man," Caroline said. Vivienne had not expected that from her. "I must say that first, otherwise everything will be misunderstood." Vivienne did not move. "But his father," Caroline continued, "was different. His father is dead. Yes, but what he left behind is not." Caroline leaned forward. "While I was engaged, one night I saw a document in Sebastian's study. By accident. It had been left open on the desk." She paused. The Weston family, for decades, has systematically indebted certain families. It begins small, a friendly loan given in goodwill. Then it grows. Then the time comes to collect. Something inside Vivian froze. And the payment, she said slowly, is not money. Not money. Land. Name. Or, she paused, a daughter. Silence. Long, heavy, carrying everything. Vivian stood, walked to the window, her back to Caroline. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. We owe Weston, my daughter, far too much. And Sebastian's voice. For a long time I was occupied with doing what the name Weston required. Until I realized it would destroy a life. Vivian turned. You saw this document, she said. What happened next? Sebastian saw me, Caroline's voice lowered. He closed the document, looked at me for a long time, then said, Now you know. I said yes. And he said, Then this marriage will not happen.
Vivian's breath caught. He released you to protect you? Yes. Caroline's eyes filled, but no tears fell. Like someone who had lived in hiding for 2 years, she held them back. And in that moment I understood. He knew what his father had done, and he did not want to continue it. But he did not yet have the power to stop it. Does he now? Caroline looked at her. I don't know. That's why I came to you. She paused. Because you are the only one here now. And if Sebastian has truly changed, if he wants to end his father's legacy, he cannot do it alone. Vivian looked at her for a long time. Then walked to the door. Wait here, she said. Sebastian was in his study. Vivian opened the door without knocking. He looked up from his desk. Surprised. Visibly so, but he said nothing. Vivian closed the door. Walked in. Stood before the desk. She did not sit. Caroline is here, she said. Sebastian froze. In the manor? Yes. And she told me everything. He rose from the desk. Slowly. Fully. And in that moment, after all these weeks, Vivian saw something real on Sebastian Crane's face for the first time. No mask. No calculation. No control. Only fear. Vivian, she said. Sit. He sat. You knew what your father did.
He did not answer. Sebastian. Yes. A single word, heavy, tired, long carried. And you continued it. At first. His voice broke, slightly, but they both heard it. At first, I did not fully understand what I was doing. The system was there, functioning. I was simply inside it. Then, he paused. Then I understood. When? Sebastian looked at the papers on his desk. When Caroline saw the document, he said, I saw what I had become through her eyes, and in that moment, that single moment, everything became clear. In your father's list, Vivienne said slowly, my father was there. Silence. Yes. And you, said Vivienne, inherited that list. Yes. And you made me an offer. Yes.
Sebastian lifted his head. After my first proposal, I removed Ashford from my father's list. The debt ended. On paper. Vivienne froze. What? After your first no, Sebastian said, you walked out that door, and I tore that document apart. He paused. But I did not tell your father. Because I was ashamed. His voice dropped further. Ashamed that I had placed a woman at such a table, that I had made you such an offer, and I could not bring my shame into words. Vivienne looked at him for a long time. Her mind was working, fast, cold, assembling every piece. The first refusal, her father's debt, 2 years of silence, the 4th night. Then, she said slowly, my father was afraid for nothing. For 2 years? Sebastian closed his eyes. Yes. And I said yes for nothing. A long silence. Yes. Vivienne turned, walked to the door. Vivienne. She stopped, did not turn. I am sorry, said Sebastian. It is not enough, I know, but I cannot find another word. Vivienne reached for the handle. The other families on the list, she said. Her voice was flat, cold, but it trembled, slightly. Only she felt it. A pause. 17. Vivienne opened the door. Then you have work to do, a great deal of it. And she left. She stopped in the corridor, leaned against the wall, closed her eyes. There was much inside her. Anger, yes, but beneath the anger, something else, more complex, heavier. Her father's final night came to mind. Trembling hands, a whisper. We owe Weston, my daughter. But the debt had already been erased, after the first refusal. Her father did not know. Vivienne did not know. And Sebastian had carried it, silently, for years, unable to say it. Did that absolve him? No. But it changed the shape of things. Vivienne opened her eyes. She went to her room, sat at her desk, took Caroline's note from her pocket. S. Read this after you find me. She held it for a long time, then stood, returned to the study, knocked. Come, said Sebastian's voice. Vivienne entered, walked to the desk, placed the note down. Caroline wrote to you, she said. It is time to read it. Sebastian looked at the note, then at Vivienne. I will be waiting with Caroline in the sitting room, said Vivienne. Come when you are ready to see her. And this time, as she left, she did not close the door. Sebastian came to the sitting room 10 minutes. 10 minutes, not more, not less. Vivienne noticed. The note was not short, but he had not read it quickly. He had sat with every word. He stopped at the door. Caroline saw him. Vivienne watched Caroline. Something passed across her face, complex, like the sound of a door long closed being opened again. Sebastian entered, slowly, took the chair opposite Caroline. Vivienne rose. Speak alone, she said. No, Caroline said. Vivienne was surprised. Stay, I want to say this to both of you. Vivienne sat. Caroline looked at the table, folded her hands in her lap. Would you like to know what I wrote in the note? She said, not to Vivienne, but to Sebastian. He waited. I wrote, I forgive you, said Caroline, but it took me 2 years to say that, because first I had to forgive myself. Yourself? Sebastian's voice was low. Yes.
Caroline lifted her head. I knew something, and I remained silent. Because I was afraid. I ran, and that is my fault. I made you run. Yes, but I could have stayed. Caroline paused. Someone stronger would have stayed. I ran. Silence. Sebastian leaned forward, rested his elbows on his knees, lowered his head. What can I do? He said. His voice was low, vulnerable. Now, concretely, what can I do? Caroline looked at him. The families on the list, she said, 17 of them. Expose the documents, erase the debts, clear their names. She paused. Publicly acknowledge what your father did. The room fell silent. This was no small thing. The Weston name would collapse. Society, parliament, business, everything would shake. Decades of reputation would end in a single move. Sebastian lifted his head, looked at Vivienne. Vivienne did not look away. And the Ashford family, said Sebastian. Shall I include them as well? The Ashford debt was already erased, said Vivienne. Her voice was flat. But the public does not know that. My father died carrying that burden. Sebastian stood, walked to the window, looked outside. London was grey, as always, the clouds low. He looked for a long time.
Vivienne and Caroline waited. Neither spoke. Sometimes the most important decisions were made in silence. Words complicated, silence clarified. At last Sebastian turned. I am calling my lawyer in the morning, he said. His voice was steady, decisive. The documents will be ready this week. Caroline's eyes filled. This time the tears fell. 2 years' worth, suppressed, exhausted tears. Sebastian looked at her, did not step closer, but his voice softened. Are you safe? Financially? Yes, said Caroline. I managed. Good. A pause. Good. That was all. It was not much, but it was enough, for both of them. That heavy door on both sides closed, without noise, but definitively. Caroline left. The manor fell silent again. Vivienne walked her to the door, 2 women side by side in the corridor, saying nothing, yet something existed between them. Understood, unspoken, heavy. At the door, Caroline turned. I did not know you, she said to Vivienne, but you are the right woman. Vivienne said nothing, only inclined her head. Caroline left. Vivienne returned to the manor, walked down the corridor, slowly, thinking. There was much in her mind. Her father's face, Caroline's tired eyes, Sebastian's long silence by the window. She reached the stairs, was about to ascend. Vivienne. She turned. Sebastian stood at the end of the corridor. He had just come from the sitting room, the note in his hand. He walked toward her, stopped. 2 steps remained between them. He extended his hand, offering the note. Vivienne took it. Would you like to read it? Sebastian asked. Vivienne looked at the note, folded, small, its edges worn, the wear of something long kept. Was it written to me? No? Then no. She extended it back. Some things should remain with the one they were meant for. Sebastian took it, slipped it into his pocket. They stood there, in the corridor, in candlelight, 2 steps apart. I, said Sebastian. He paused, began again. The lawyer comes tomorrow. The process will be long. Parliament, courts, the press. He paused. The name Weston will likely end. I know. This will affect you as well. I know. And still, Sebastian looked at her. You did not object to what I said. Vivian looked at him for a moment. Because it was right, she said. It is not my place to oppose what is right. Something passed across Sebastian's face, that complex, difficult-to-name thing. Vivian could read it now. She had been reading it for weeks. This time, she recognized it. Gratitude. Pure, unguarded, wordless. Vivian, he said. His voice was low. Sebastian. He stopped. Vivian took a step forward. Just one step, but it carried weeks, walls, small smiles, Caroline's note, that morning in the garden, that night in the library. It is not finished, she said. There is still much to say, much to do. She paused. But I am not leaving. Sebastian looked at her. Why? Vivian considered it, truly considered it without evasion, without a convenient answer. Because, she said at last, 3 times I said no and was right, and once I said yes and was wrong. Now, for the first time, I am making my own decision. And that decision? Vivian looked at him for the 4th time, but now there was no pressure, no debt, no father's dying wish. Just the 2 of them, in the corridor, in candlelight. I am staying, she said, but I have conditions. The corner of Sebastian's mouth curved, that unexpected vulnerable smile. I am listening. Honesty, said Vivian, at all times, no matter how heavy. Agreed. The 17 families, all of them, without omission. Agreed. And, she paused, took a breath, and when you say Vivian to me again, say it only when you truly mean it, not when it is calculated. Sebastian looked at her. For a long moment. Then he took a single step. Vivian, he said. This time it was different. The word was the same, but everything beneath it was different. No calculation, no mask, no weight of the Weston name. Just him. Vivian said nothing, but she did not step back. That night, for the first time, the manor felt different. As Vivian walked to her room, the corridors were the same. Stone, candlelight, cold. But something had changed. Subtle, difficult to notice, but real. As though the house had begun to breathe. Or perhaps Vivian had. Perhaps they were the same. She entered her room, sat at her desk, took a sheet of paper, took a pen, and wrote a letter to her father. A letter she could never send, would never send, but she had to write it. Father, she began. The debt had already been erased. You did not know, neither did I, but now I do. And so I wanted to tell you this. Do not be afraid. Not any more. I am here, and this time I am here by my own choice. She set the pen down, extinguished the candle, and for the first time in Weston Manor, she slept through the night. 6 months later, the Weston case shook London. Sebastian Crane, Duke of Weston, brought his father's decades-long systematic debt network before the courts himself. Documents, names, figures, all laid bare, one by one. 17 families, 17 debts, 17 ruined names. The newspapers wrote of nothing else for a week. Society split in 2. One half called Sebastian a traitor, a madman who dragged his own name to court. The other half defined him with a single word, honest. Parliament opened an inquiry. Former associates of the Weston family gave testimony, one by one, and the names of the 17 families were cleared, officially, irrevocably. The Ashford family was among them. Vivian read the newspaper that morning at breakfast. Sebastian sat across from her, waiting quietly. Vivian finished the paper, set it down. Outside the window, London stood under rain. It's over,
said Vivian. It's over, said Sebastian. Vivian took her coffee, drank, then looked at him. If my father had known, she said, what do you think he would have said? Sebastian thought, truly thought. He would have said, you are late, but he would have smiled. Vivian laughed. Brief, small, unexpected, but real. A year later, spring came early to the gardens of Weston Manor. Vivian sat on the stone bench, a book on her lap, her hair loose, garden soil at the tips of her shoes. Sebastian came and sat beside her, without speaking. For a while they simply looked at the garden. 2 of the 17 families sent letters last week, said Vivian. Letters of thanks. I know. I received them too. Did you reply? I did. Vivian turned her head, looked at him. What did you write? Sebastian laughed, that now familiar, unguarded, real laugh. I wrote, I am not the one who deserves your thanks. My wife convinced me. Vivian raised an eyebrow. Alive? A half-truth. You did not convince me, but if you had not been there, he paused, I would still be standing in that corridor. Vivian turned back to her book. But there was something at the corner of her mouth, small, persistent, refusing to leave. A smile. And this time, she did not push it away.
Thank you for staying with this story all the way through to the end. Be sure to tell us in the comments which city you're listening from. We always enjoy seeing where our audience is across the world. If you enjoyed the story, we would truly appreciate it if you subscribed to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating and sharing stories like this.